I mean, it seems like you have such an interesting mix of kind of cultures in your background. Where are you from? Where were you raised?
Okay, so this is the question that every time people ask me this question, I'm like, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
I want the long answer. We got time.
Okay, so the long answer is that my dad is from Michigan, from the States, and then my mom is from a tiny town in Poland. And they met in Poland, and I ended up being born. My brother was born in Poland, but I was actually born in Russia. And then they moved to China when I was 4 years old because my dad is like working in the IELTS. I don't know if you know the IELTS test, but it's like this test to test your English level. And a lot of countries require it for work, for university, stuff like that. So my dad was an IELTS examiner, and that's why our whole family like moved to China in 1999. So that was like, so every time people ask me like, where are you from? It's kind of, I can't just say like, oh, I'm from the States or I'm from Poland, or I can't even say that I'm from China, because even though culturally I do identify with a lot of Chinese things, and after being here for so long, it definitely has like made its mark on me, on like, and on my identity. But I feel like I can't claim that because I don't have a green card and because I'm white. Like, yeah, it's like being here for 20 plus years. And I still feel sometimes that I have to like defend my relationship with China when people are like, no way, like no one has been here for 20 something years. But yeah, it's a complicated answer that I'm still exploring, like identity and all of that.
Well, it brings up the question on like how you can identify where someone is from. And it seems easy. Like you would just say, well, I'm from Canada. There you go. It's how hard can it be? But there are so many people that don't fit within that box, that kind of, well-organized box. It becomes more complicated
Right.
the more cultures you add into it. So the way that I've thought about it, and tell me your thoughts on this, is there's kind of like three ways you can determine someone's identity. You could say, okay, this is your blood. So like it's your lineage or whatever. My family is ethnically German or ethnically Chinese. You could say your passport, where you're legally a citizen of a country, or you could say the culture where you grew up in, like the culture that you had the most exposure to, and probably exposure on like kind of those pinnacle years when you're young and you're like very
Right.
impressionable, and it kind of shapes who you are culturally speaking. And I think personally that the culture one is the only one that really matters because it's the one that impacts you the most. But that's just my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Like the culture plays a big part in it. And it's funny because I've never lived in the States. Like I've never lived in the States, but I did consume like Western media growing up. And I was like, on Tumblr and on YouTube and all that. So but then I also consumed all of the Chinese media. But the funny thing is because those points that you got into, I actually wanted to do a video topic on this. What makes someone Asian? And I guess you could say what makes anyone and I guess I meant Asian culturally. But of course Asian is a race more than it is a culture. And yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, is it the language that you speak with your parents? Is it the language you speak with your kids? Is it the food that you eat? Is it the religion? Is it the religion that you follow? Is it the language that you read in or the language that you dream in? And I like had a whole list of everything, like what makes you like identify with a culture. But at the end of the day, like I was talking with my Asian friends about this, and they're like, Alysa, you'll never be Asian. Like just because racially you're not Asian, you will just never be able to be Asian. And also I'm wondering how much of an identity can we identify with if we don't experience the same things that people who are from that race experience. Like we might identify with a certain culture, but we don't receive the racism, we don't receive the negative points that culture has to endure. So does that mean that maybe we don't have access to identifying with this culture because you can't really just take the good without the bad, So I don't know. What do you think about that? That's something that I've been thinking about.
I mean, that's a more nuanced definition than what I was providing. I mean, by saying if all that matters is culture, I am kind of stepping over some other important things, like you're saying, like how you appear to other people and how they might treat you based on that. And so I guess I'm looking at it through kind of an idealized version. Like I would like to think that no matter how you look in Canada, people would treat you the same. Is that a reality for everyone? Probably not. But it is normal for us to have people from other countries that have a different ethnic background, but were raised culturally Canadian. So like having someone who moved to Canada when they were 4 from China, so it'd be like almost the opposite of your story, would be totally normal. And that kid would grow up in Canada, would speak like a Canadian, would have all of the same cultural references that I would. And I, anyway, would treat them just as I would another Canadian. I think that in countries that are less diverse, it becomes more of a topic where it's like, hey, why is it that you speak like that, but you look different, you know? And then it's more of a topic. Like, do people treat you very differently living in China because you aren't ethnically Chinese?
Right. That is my experience. In the beginning, people would ask me like, where are you from? Where are you from? Or they wouldn't find out that I'm not Chinese unless they saw me. Like if I was on the phone, they would think that I'm Chinese. Or if I was wearing a hat, if I was wearing a mask, they wouldn't know that I'm not Chinese. But then once they see like, that I'm not Asian, then they would be like, wait, so where are you from? I'd be like, I immigrated. I'm an immigrant. Like I immigrated like back in the day. And they're like, wait, no, like, no, they're like, no, you didn't. And they're like, where are you actually from? And so then I would, have to explain the whole thing. And I think for so long, I wanted to fit in, and there were so many things that I didn't do growing up, because I just wanted to be like everyone else. And growing up, I was like an overweight kid as well. So that was also something that was like, I was trying to like hide not be noticed. When it came to like personal style, I tried to dress more like, I didn't want to dress anything that would like make me stand out even more than I already do. So I would kind of wear things that were more like unisex or more like plain, just like not very colorful, not very bright. And that was like for most of my teenage years, and like just for like quite a while, I was just trying to fit in so much. And then when I dated my ex, I was with a Chinese guy for 5 years. And I think that I talked about this in therapy, actually. Like my therapist was like, do you think, because okay, well, maybe I won't get into that, but with my ex, like I don't know how much of me was like thinking that this would really help me to be a part of Chinese society. Like once I'm like in a relationship with a Chinese person, then of course I have to be accepted like 100% as Chinese. But it kind of actually made me feel the opposite. And it took me like 20 something years to realize that no matter what, I'm not going to actually be able to be Chinese. And I especially recall recently, last year, I was on a trip to Poland, where my mom is from, and I was in a tiny town like on the outskirts of Warsaw, and I was visiting my friend, and she is very involved in the church community there. We went to the parish cafe after mass, and people were just like treating me like a Polish person, even though I felt so detached from Polish culture. I can't even speak Polish, and I felt really bad that I don't speak Polish. And I was like, wait a second. When I'm in a tiny town in China speaking like fluent Mandarin with the locals, I still get that foreigner treatment. But here I can just like get away with it, and I can be accepted as one of them. And I'm like, I need to learn Polish. I need to learn Polish properly now. So yeah, I think as long as China is not an immigrant country, and as long as it's like not as diverse, as long as it's a homogenous society, I think this is always going to be something that keeps happening. Like it's just people are just going to be seen as foreigners. Like you still get the welcome to China, or do you use chopsticks, or do you eat rice at home? Mm-hmm. Can you read Chinese? Like this kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, it just is what it is.
I mean, that's a tough reality though, because especially as a kid, I mean, everyone wants to fit in with their peers, right? We all have that desire to, a certain degree. And it can be a hard time in a kid's life when they're growing up and they're figuring out who they are as an individual. And then when you have that kind of overarching system that's also telling you, hey, because you look this way, you don't fit in, like that just compounds with something that probably most kids go through. And so it sounds like it's like it would have been extra hard for you. That sounds very difficult.
Yeah, it was hard. When I was a kid, we did have friends. We did have Chinese friends. We met some really sweet people, but there were some people who um, you're not really sure what the relationship, like some people would be like, oh, can we be friends? I want to like improve my English and this kind of thing. Like you're not really sure what's their motives. Like, is it actually friendship or is there something that they want for you? But we were lucky that we did have a lot of really sweet Chinese friends. And even though we may be treated like other like foreigners, but there's like never like negative treatment. Like we didn't experience what some other people might experience if they, I mean, people were still really kind. They were still really kind.
I mean, you can be very kind to someone and still make them feel like an outsider.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yeah,
you don't have to be rude to someone to make them feel like they don't belong. And something that I'm always curious about, especially in environments that don't have a lot of diversity, is like, how does that affect how you see yourself? Like when society tells you, hey, you're not Chinese, you're never going to be Chinese, but you know that you grew up there and that you have a lot of cultural references and everything like that that are Chinese. I mean, like, if you could imagine removing how anyone else might see you, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as Chinese?
I think that I see myself as like, and I've had this conversation with friends as well, like it percentages. I think I'd be about 60% Chinese and then 20% American, then 20% Polish.
Okay.
Like a mix of everything. It's funny because when I first started dating my ex, and people would ask me like, how did you guys get, like what did you, like, how do you guys get together? And one thing that I would say, like, that I noticed was that he just treated me like a Chinese girl. He didn't treat me like all the other, he didn't ask those other questions. We talked about like documentaries, we talked about like food and all that. And it was refreshing to be treated as just as a Chinese girl. But then later I realized that I'm not just a Chinese girl. Like I have so many different cultural parts of me. And it's just not that simple. And so I started to realize like, oh, okay, maybe I am more than just being Chinese, but maybe I'm not fully Chinese either. Yeah, it's super complicated. It's something that I'm always exploring, and I don't think I'll ever stop exploring the topic of identity.